On a chilly evening in Maplewood, the quiet suburb's streets were lined with modest houses, their neatly trimmed hedges casting long shadows under flickering porch lights. A faint scent of freshly baked bread mingled with the crisp autumn air. It was the kind of town where everyone claimed to know one another, yet unspoken tension simmered beneath the surface. At the end of Willow Lane stood the Donovan house. Evelyn Donovan, a widow in her late 60s, lived there with her grandson Luke. Evelyn, always impeccably dressed, carried an air of quiet pride. Her home, filled with warm light and lavender sachets, exuded comfort. But beneath the surface, Evelyn's obsessive devotion to Luke seemed to outweigh her affection for anyone else. Luke, 19, had lived with Evelyn since losing his parents in a car accident 3 years earlier. Athletic and charming, his sharp green eyes once sparkled with life, but lately he had grown distant, avoiding friends and spending less time around the neighborhood. Mia, his best friend, noticed the change first. She often visited Evelyn's house, trying to cheer him up, but Luke remained evasive, his temper quick to flare. Evelyn dismissed Mia's concerns with a firm kindness, insisting he was just at that age, yet her behavior hinted at a possessiveness that unnerved Mia. Evelyn cooked Luke's favorite meals, hovered when he was home, and often sent Mia away with excuses about his needing rest. The house held secrets, none more unsettling than the always locked basement door. When Luke was younger, Evelyn brushed off his questions about it, saying there was nothing worth seeing. As he grew older, he stopped asking, though its presence loomed like an unspoken rule. Recently, Luke had begun slipping out late at night, unnoticed by Evelyn, or so he thought. One night, when he returned past midnight, Evelyn was waiting in the darkened living room. Her calm tone carried an edge that sent shivers down Luke's spine. His vague excuse about seeing a friend did little to satisfy her, and though she didn't press further, her sharp eyes watched him ascend the stairs. The next morning, Mia found the front door ajar when she came looking for Luke. The air inside was still, the faint scent of lavender mingling with something metallic. A streak of blood near the kitchen counter led to the basement, its door eerily ajar. Mia hesitated, dread pooling in her stomach as she descended into the cold, dimly lit space. At the bottom, her worst fears materialized. Luke lay on the concrete floor, his body twisted unnaturally, blood pooling around his head. His shirt was torn, revealing gashes across his chest and arms, signs of a desperate struggle. Near him lay a shattered ceramic vase, its jagged edges smeared with blood. Above him, pinned to the wall, was a photograph of Luke and Evelyn. Someone had slashed through Luke's face, and beneath it, scrawled in crimson letters, was the word, "Mine." Mia stumbled back, her trembling hands fumbling for her phone as she dialed 911. When the police arrived, Detective Nathan Harris took charge. A man of sharp focus and methodical precision, he surveyed the grim scene with a practiced eye. The photograph, the blood patterns, and the eerie message all pointed to a deeply personal motive. Yet, Evelyn was nowhere to be found. Harris began unraveling the threads of Luke's life. Harris described him as distant, while his bank records showed suspicious deposits, far exceeding what he could earn from odd jobs. A burner phone hidden in his room contained cryptic messages about payments and drops. Harris suspected Luke was involved in something illicit, but the motive for his murder remained elusive. Meanwhile, Evelyn's history came under scrutiny. The letters and photographs hidden in her house painted a picture of a woman consumed by grief and obsession. Old letters, unsigned but filled with declarations of love, hinted at a deeper connection to the crime. Richard, a gruff old friend of Evelyn's with a history of fraud, admitted she had confided in him about Luke's troubles but denied any involvement in his death. Jimmy, a nervous mechanic tied to Luke's dealings, claimed Luke had been trying to escape a dangerous buyer. Despite their denials, both men seemed to know more than they let on. Mia, though visibly shaken, revealed her frustration with Evelyn's control over Luke. Her raw grief was undeniable, but her sharp anger hinted at unresolved tensions. Harris pieced together a fragmented narrative. Luke, trapped in a dangerous scheme, had tried to protect himself and those he cared about. Evelyn, desperate to shield her grandson, had grown increasingly controlling. The chilling message on the wall, the obsessive letters, and her sudden disappearance all pointed to a deeper, darker truth. As Harris pressed his suspects, the quiet streets of Maplewood held their breath, waiting for the truth to emerge. The wedding day that should have been Amelia's dream come true had turned into a nightmare. The reception hall, adorned with cascading white lilies and flickering candles, now stood eerily silent. Hours earlier, laughter and music had filled the room as Amelia and Daniel exchanged vows. But now, the once joyous space was stained with blood and horror. At the center of the room, near the aisle where Amelia had glided in her gown, lay Evelyn's lifeless body. Her elegant dress was torn, and blood streaked her once pristine face, now frozen in terror. The petals scattered across the floor, some stained deep red, added a grotesque irony to the scene. Amelia knelt beside her mother's body, still in her wedding gown, her trembling hands stained crimson. Tears streaked her pale face as she clutched Evalia's limp hand, her whispered apologies lost in the silence. Around her, guests stood in stunned horror, their murmurs blending into a low hum of disbelief. Detective Nathan Harris arrived shortly after, his sharp eyes scanning the chaotic scene. The once perfect celebration was now a crime scene, and every detail spoke of a tragedy rooted in secrets. As Harris pieced together fragments of the evening, he noticed the tension between Amelia and Evelyn that had simmered beneath the surface for years. Evelyn, fiercely protective, but subtly disapproving, had always kept her daughter at arm's length. And Daniel, the seemingly perfect groom, was now nowhere to be found. Malia, her voice shaking, told Harris of her mother's warnings and cryptic remarks about Daniel. Evelyn had tried to confront him during the reception, and moments later she was found dead. Harris's instincts told him there was more to Daniel's polished facade, and Malia's haunted eyes held the weight of a truth she couldn't yet face. The night's horrors had only begun to unravel. In the shadow of love and celebration, betrayal and violence had struck, leaving a once happy union drenched in darkness. Amelia stood frozen, trembling as she hovered over her mother, Evelyn, unable to process the scene before her. It felt like a surreal nightmare. Hesitantly, she reached out, her fingers brushing against Evelyn's cold skin, as though her touch could bring her back to life. But Evelyn's lifeless eyes remained fixed, wide with terror. Around her neck was a jagged necklace of bruises, evidence of a violent struggle. Beside her lay a single white lily, its petals stained with blood, a chilling final touch. Scattered near Evelyn's hand were torn fragments of a photograph. Amelia's breath caught as she recognized glimpses of her own face, Daniel's, and that of an unfamiliar woman. The fragments stirred confusion and dread, hinting at secrets she had overlooked. Her heart jumped at the sound of footsteps echoing down the hall. She spun around, expecting anyone who could explain, but the hallway was empty, shadows stretching ominously in front of her. Ah-ha-ha. Amelia appeared, his face pale and unreadable. His eyes darted between Amelia and Evelyn's body before settling on Amelia with a mixture of shock and something she couldn't place. Fear? Guilt? Her gaze fell back to the photograph fragments, her mind racing. The torn edges revealed cracks in her seemingly perfect life, connections she had dismissed as paranoia. The truth hit her like a blow. Evelyn and Daniel had shared a bond darker and more twisted than she had imagined. Amelia's knees buckled as realization set in. "Ah!" Daniel's voice broke through the silence again, desperate. "This isn't what you think." But his words rang hollow. She backed away, her world crumbling. The sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. She didn't need explanations. She knew the truth now. Detective Lucas Grant arrived shortly after, stepping into the oppressive silence. He surveyed the scene. The bruises on Evelyn's neck, the blood-stained lily, the torn photograph. Each detail painted a portrait of betrayal and violence. Questioning Amelia and Daniel only deepened the mystery. Secrets unraveled, Evelyn's manipulations, Daniel's hidden ties, and a betrayal buried beneath their lives. As Daniel confessed to Evelyn's murder, Amelia's world shattered. The man she once loved had dragged her into a web of lies, leaving her broken. The truth had surfaced, but its cost was devastating. Detective Sam Carter, known for his sharp instincts and relentless pursuit of truth, found himself unraveling a complex web of lies in Daniel Harrington's murder. As successful attorney, Daniel appeared the perfect husband, yet his death unearthed hidden fractures in his life. Carter began with Lila Harrington, Daniel's wife. Her grief seemed genuine, but her guarded demeanor and evasive answers hinted at deeper secrets. She admitted their marriage had deteriorated, describing a life of growing distance. When pressed about her relationship with family friend Adam Brooks, she claimed he was merely a confidant, yet her tension betrayed more, a desire to survive for herself. Questioned about his connection to Lila, Adam admitted they had grown close, but vehemently denied involvement in Daniel's death. His alibi? A night alone in his workshop was flimsy, and his visible frustration hinted at emotions deeper than friendship. Another lead came in the form of Hannah Green, Daniel's young legal assistant. Encrypted messages revealed an affair, exposing Daniel's double life. During questioning, Hannah admitted to being seduced and discarded by Daniel. Her bitterness was palpable, but she insisted she'd ended the relationship before his death. Yet Carter sensed her pain could have turned vengeful. Adding to the intrigue was Jacob Reading, a disgruntled former client. Having lost a high-stakes case, Jacob had publicly threatened Daniel. His explosive temper and weak alibi made him a suspect, though his animosity felt too convenient as Carter sifted through motives, betrayal, jealousy, and rage. Daniel's carefully curated image crumbled. His affair, fractured marriage, and questionable dealings painted a portrait of a man with many enemies. Yet despite the mounting evidence, Carter felt a crucial piece was missing. The tangled connections hinted at a larger truth, one hidden just beneath the surface. In the quiet town of Rivermore, Clara Hayes and Aidan Westwood seemed destined for a perfect life together. Clara, a beloved kindergarten teacher, and Aidan, a charismatic architect, were the picture of a golden couple. Their wedding day, set in the serene gardens of Rivermore State, was a moment the town eagerly anticipated. Clara's mother, Anne Hayes, a respected counselor, had raised her daughter with unwavering devotion, and their bond seemed unshakable. Clara had noticed subtle signs before, and yet been offered strange a welcome at the same time, secrets even Clara hadn't uncovered. The night before the wedding, an unexplainable sense of foreboding gripped Clara. A dense mist cloaked Rivermore, casting eerie shadows over the estate. Anne, meticulously arranging the centerpieces, seemed distant, her touch lingering too long on the delicate roses. Across the room, Aidan watched her, his gaze dark and unreadable. When their eyes met, a silent tension passed between them, a flicker of something unspoken and unsettling. As the wedding day dawned, the picturesque scene was ready, the arched doors, the delicate flowers, the gathered guests. But Clara couldn't ignore the heaviness in the air, as though the secrets surrounding her life were bracing to reveal themselves. Beneath the facade of perfection lay truths, waiting to unravel, weaving a web of betrayal and heartbreak that no one in Rivermore could foresee. The calm before the storm lingered, and Clara was left with an unshakable question. What was hiding behind the smiles of those she loved most? The wedding began as a perfect celebration of love, but darkness crept in when Clara discovered her mother, Anne, lifeless in the estate's study. Anne's body lay amidst signs of struggle, scattered papers, shattered glass, and bruises on her wrists. Clutched in her hand was a blood-smeared scrap of paper, a chilling clue pointing to a violent end. Clara's grief turned to suspicion as Aidan, her new husband, displayed an unsettling calm. His embrace felt staged, and his calculated demeanor unsettled her. A memory of Anne's wary gaze at Aidan haunted Clara as Detective Leo Harris arrived to investigate. Known for his sharp intuition, Harris immediately sensed layers of deceit beneath the surface. Aidan, previously close to Anne, appeared increasingly suspicious. His alibi, a stroll in the garden, was weak, and his guarded answers hinted at more than grief. James, the best man, admitted Anne had warned him to watch Aidan, adding tension to his already questionable closeness with her. Meanwhile, Anne's friend Lydia revealed concerns about her fixation on Aidan, though her own past scandals cast shadows on her credibility. The plot thickened with the discovery of Anne's clandestine dealings, records of debts, and favors tied to multiple guests. An ex-lover, Peter, was also seen arguing with her before her death. The autopsy confirmed the traces of sedatives in Anne's system, indicating premeditation. Harris pieced together Anne's double life, exposing jealousy, betrayal, and power struggles within the family. As suspicion zeroed in on Aidan, Harris faced a daunting truth. The crime wasn't impulsive, but calculated, and Anne's murder was the result of secrets too dangerous to remain hidden. The grand ballroom at Whitestone Estate buzzed with celebration, the soft glow of chandeliers masking the secrets brewing beneath the surface. Amidst the laughter and music, a horrifying discovery shattered the evening's elegance. A waiter delivering champagne noticed a side room's door ajar. Inside, Elaine Thorne lay lifeless on the plush carpet, her green dress twisted, blood pooling beneath her. Shattered pearls from her necklace scattered across the floor, leading toward the fireplace. The room, once refined, now bore silent witness to a violent struggle. An overturned chair, shards of glass, and scratches on Elaine's arms told the grim story. The waiter's panicked cries pierced the joyous atmosphere, drawing a stunned crowd. Michael Carter, the groom, rushed to the scene. Dropping to his knees, he froze before Elaine's lifeless body. Her once vibrant eyes were now cold, her beauty marred by the violence of her final moments. His trembling hands hovered above her, disbelief gripping him. Behind him, Amelia, his new bride, entered silently. Her pale face betrayed shock, but her eyes held something darker. She stared at Michael, watching his anguish with an unsettling calm. As their eyes met, the weight of unspoken truths hung between them. Amelia stepped closer, leaning in just enough for her whispered words to slice through him. "Isn't this what you wanted?" Michael's expression shifted from grief to terror, realization dawning. The air grew heavy as Amelia's calculated vengeance unfolded before him. Her wedding, once a symbol of love, had become the stage for a chilling revelation. The perfect facade had crumbled, leaving betrayal, secrets, and blood in its wake. Detective Evelyn Cross arrived at Whitestone Estate, her sharp eyes dissecting every detail of the opulent crime scene. Elaine Thorne lay lifeless in the lounge, surrounded by shattered glass, scattered pearls, and blood-stained carpets. Each fragment told a fractured story, and Evelyn's mind pieced together the chaos. Amelia, Elaine's poised but tense daughter, admitted to writing a threatening note. "End it with Michael or I will." Her calm demeanor cracked as she revealed knowledge of Elaine's affair with her fiancé Michael, yet her alibi held firm. She had been with the guests all night. Michael, guilt-ridden and visibly shaken, confessed to his fling with Elaine, but denied murder. His motive was clear: silence Elaine to save his reputation. But his alibi, though shaky, placed him at the reception. Elaine's bitter best friend Olivia Hampton described her as a woman who thrived on drama, even at others' expense. Her resentment ran deep, but Olivia denied any intent to harm, her alibi seemingly intact. Meanwhile, Gerald Harper, Elaine's business partner, harbored anger over her reckless spending, endangering their company. Though cold and detached, his alibi appeared unassailable. Evelyn's interviews unearthed motives, steeped in betrayal, jealousy, and resentment, yet the truth remained elusive. Every suspect harbored secrets, their stories filled with gaps and contradictions. Walking the estate's shadowed corridors, Evelyn knew the key to Elaine's murder lay hidden within those tangled lies, waiting to be unearthed. Detective Evelyn Cross had unraveled the twisted web of deceit, but the truth was still elusive. Every suspect connected to Elaine in painful ways, yet one small detail gnawed at Evelyn's mind: a delicate silver locket hidden beneath the sofa, smeared with blood. Inside, a note in Elaine's handwriting read, "I know everything, Amelia. You'll never get away with this." The revelation pointed directly to Amelia. Amelia's face betrayed her guilt when confronted. She had been desperate to protect the life built on lies, her inheritance, her marriage, and the image she had crafted. Elaine had threatened to expose everything, including her affair with Michael. In a cold, detached confession, Amelia admitted to killing her mother to silence her. The wedding had been a carefully staged act, masking the crime. Evelyn's heart raced as the confession echoed through the room, the weight of the truth settling in. As Amelia was arrested, Evelyn couldn't shake the haunting realization: some betrayals are too deep to ever truly vanish. One while in Hazelwood, Emily Parks, the picture-perfect housewife, hid forbidden desires beneath her pristine life. Her secret affair with Ryan Calloway, the teenage boy next door, had spiraled out of control. When Ryan was found dead in her kitchen, the blood-stained scene left more questions than answers. Detective Monroe arrived, piecing together the evidence, but a troubling detail emerged. The crime scene seemed staged, as if someone had crafted a narrative to mislead the investigators. A truth was yet to be uncovered. Detective Monroe had just begun unraveling the tangled web of Ryan's life when the tension became palpable. Ryan had been a drifter, involved with petty crimes and rumors of debts owed. His connection to Emily was murky. Had she offered him comfort, or did he hold something over her? As Monroe delved deeper, new suspects emerged. Emily, burdened with guilt. Linda, Ryan's bitter aunt. Greg, whose calm demeanor seemed forced. And even Ryan's shady acquaintances. Every clue led Monroe in circles, but he knew the truth was hiding beneath layers of deceit. Then came a breakthrough, a grainy video from Ryan himself. In it, he revealed a shocking secret. Greg had threatened Emily, warning her of dire consequences if she left him. Monroe's pulse quickened as he noticed a reflection in the background. Greg's face, masked in fury, watching Ryan. Confronting Greg, Monroe laid out the video. Greg's facade cracked, and in a fit of rage he confessed he had killed Ryan out of jealousy and vengeful anger, silencing the man he saw as a threat. As Greg was led away, Hazelwood's quiet suburbs were left to grapple with the aftermath. Emily, now free from Greg's control, felt the weight of her choices, while Linda mourned her nephew's fate. Detective Monroe, though he had solved the case, was left with the painful truth that some wounds never heal. The cost of betrayal in Hazelwood was a price too steep for anyone to pay. Her mother could no longer see her as anything other than a disappointment. Carly's mind raced, the weight of her struggles and the deepening rift with her mother overwhelming her. The sense of being trapped, unable to escape the pressure building around her, became suffocating. She tried to explain herself, to make her mother understand the pain she was in, but Ashley's frustration only seemed to amplify Carly's own. In a moment of anger and desperation, Carly snapped. The confrontation spiraled out of control, and before either of them could fully comprehend what was happening, Carly's actions escalated into a tragedy no one could have predicted. In a burst of emotion, driven by years of suppressed pain and feeling misunderstood, Carly made a choice that would alter her life and the lives of those around her forever. The aftermath was devastating. Ashley, reeling from the violence, couldn't fathom how it had come to this. Carly, now standing over the terrible consequences of her own actions, was left in a state of shock and horror. The reality of what had transpired settled in, the magnitude of her decision sinking deep into her heart. The news of the incident spread quickly through Brandon, Mississippi. The town was left in disbelief, unable to reconcile the quiet, troubled teenager with the horrific crime that had occurred. People who had known Carly and her family for years struggled to come to terms with the tragedy, searching for any sign they might have missed, any clue that could have warned them of what was to come. As authorities pieced together the events leading up to the crime, they uncovered the deep emotional strain Carly had been under. Her troubled relationship with her mother, combined with her mental health struggles and substance use, painted a picture of a young girl in crisis, unable to find a way out. The investigation revealed that Carly had, in a moment of emotional turmoil, acted impulsively, not fully understanding the consequences of her actions. She hadn't planned for it to happen, but in that moment of pain, it had felt like the only way to regain some control over her life. It was a tragic accident, a young girl pushed beyond her limits, acting out of confusion, fear, and anger. As Carly faced the consequences of her actions, she was overwhelmed by guilt and regret. She had never imagined that this is where her struggles would lead. The community, too, was left to pick up the pieces of a shattered family and a broken trust. The tragedy revealed the hidden battles many young people face, the quiet desperation that can go unnoticed until it's too late. Carly's story became a sobering reminder of the complexities of adolescence, the weight of emotional pain, and the dire consequences that can arise when a person feels isolated and unheard. It was a tale of love, loss, and the devastating impact of unmet needs and unresolved trauma. For Carly, the road to redemption would be long, and the guilt would linger forever. Carly Gregg, a 14-year-old girl, shocked her community with a chilling act of violence. After killing her mother, she remained disturbingly calm, texting her stepfather, Heath, as if nothing had happened. When her friend arrived, Carly led her to the body, calmly asking if she was squeamish around dead bodies. After sending Heath a message to return home, Carly waited in the kitchen, armed with a gun. When Heath arrived, she shot him in the shoulder, but he managed to overpower her, escaping to call for help. Carly, eerily detached, surrendered without resistance when the police arrived. Investigators uncovered evidence of premeditation, including text messages and security footage showing Carly hiding the weapon. The prosecution argued Carly acted with clear intent, while the defense suggested her mental health struggles, including depression and hearing voices, led to the tragic events. The case left the community grappling with the depth of her violence.